Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Miocha and you are watching AnewZ. Here are the headlines. An AnewZ investigation reveals new details about the Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 crash. Russia and Ukraine continue with overnight airstrikes on each other's territories. Donald Trump says he would like to meet Vladimir Putin and end the war in Ukraine. Thank you for joining us. An AnewZ investigation has revealed new details about the Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 crash. Sources indicate that the aircraft was brought down by a missile, and those responsible have been identified. Azerbaijan insists on full accountability and is prepared to take legal action if necessary. Here's the latest.
As the investigation into the Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 crash continues, new findings emerging from Russian sources suggest that the aircraft was shot down by a Pantsir S-1 air defense system, which had been brought to Russia from Syria. According to reliable sources familiar with the investigation, Russian officials have also determined that electronic warfare systems were deployed against the Azerbaijani aircraft, leading to severe malfunctions in its control systems before the crash. Sources indicate that Russian investigators have identified both the individual who launched the missile and the official who gave the order. However, it remains unclear whether Moscow will publicly disclose their names or attempt to evade responsibility. AnewZ is actively working to verify the authenticity of the names we obtained. Diplomatic sources confirm that Azerbaijan refuses to allow the case to be hushed up and remains resolute in its demand for accountability. Should Russia attempt to avoid responsibility, Baku intends to take the matter to international courts to ensure justice for the victims. The latest revelations align with Azerbaijan's initial findings, which pointed to an external explosion as the likely cause of the crash. High-resolution images and forensic analysis from the crash site indicated that the damage was consistent with a missile strike, not an internal malfunction. In a previous statement, Azerbaijan's Minister of Digital Development and Transport, Rashad Nabiev, noted that preliminary investigation results had already ruled out any technical failure or pilot error, reinforcing the missile strike theory. Azerbaijani President İlham Aliyev also made Azerbaijan's position clear.
Bugün biz tam açıkaydı. Diyebiliriz ki Rusya tarafından terör vuruldu.
We can clearly say today that the plane was shot down by Russia. This is a fact, and no one can deny this fact. Again, we are not saying that this was done intentionally, but it was done. We have clearly expressed our demands to the Russian side. These demands were officially communicated to them on the 27th of December. What do these demands consist of? First of all, the Russian side must apologize to Azerbaijan. Secondly, it must acknowledge its guilt. Thirdly, those responsible must be punished, brought to criminal responsibility, and compensation must be paid to the Azerbaijani state, to the injured passengers and crew members. These are our conditions.
Bu bizim şartlarımızdır.
3 people in Kiev were killed as a result of an overnight drone attack by Russia, Ukrainian officials said. Meanwhile, Moscow reported repelling a large Ukrainian drone strike on multiple regions.
Russia and Ukraine continue their heavy use of drones as the war intensifies. Ukraine reports that a Russian drone attack on Friday night killed 3 civilians in Kiev's central region. The Interior Ministry stated that drone debris killed 2 men and a woman, with another person injured. Local officials confirmed that the attack caused substantial damage to residential buildings, including a multi-story apartment complex, 8 private homes, commercial properties, and several private cars. Ukraine's air defense forces also reported shooting down 25 of the 58 drones launched by Russia in the recent overnight attack. Additionally, 27 drones were reportedly lost due to Ukraine's electronic warfare countermeasures, which diverted the incoming missiles. Meanwhile, Russia claims its air defense systems intercepted a massive Ukrainian drone attack, destroying 121 drones, including 6 over the Moscow region and 1 over the city. Moscow authorities reported no casualties or significant damage from the intercepted drones. The Russian Ministry of Defense further stated that drones targeted several regions, including the border areas of Bryansk, with most of them destroyed over the Kursk region near the Ukrainian border, as well as Ryazan, Belgorod, and the Russian-annexed Crimean Peninsula. As both sides continue their aerial combat, the toll on civilians and infrastructure remains high, with little sign of de-escalation.
US President Donald Trump said he would like to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin for talks on ending the war in Ukraine. Speaking via link at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Trump expressed hope China would be able to help the peace process.
Speaking via video link from Washington, D.C., President Donald Trump told global leaders in Davos on Thursday that he hopes to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin soon to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. He lamented the devastating human toll, describing the ongoing conflict as horrible.
One thing very important, I really would like to be able to meet with President Putin soon and get that war ended. And that's not from the standpoint of economy or anything else. It's from the standpoint of millions of lives are being wasted.
President Trump also highlighted the potential role of China in the peace process, expressing optimism about US-China relations and suggesting that Beijing could use its influence over Moscow to help end the conflict.
But we always had a great relationship, I would say, and we look forward to doing very well with China and getting along with China. Hopefully China can help us stop the war with, in particular, Russia-Ukraine. They have a great deal of power over that situation.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stressed the necessity of US military involvement for any effective peacekeeping force. In an interview with Bloomberg News, Zelensky called for stronger international guarantees, expressing concern that a ceasefire could allow Russia to regroup militarily. The Ukrainian leader also mentioned ongoing efforts to engage China in peace talks, but admitted frustration over limited communication with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Moscow rejected the idea of NATO countries sending peacekeeping troops to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire in the war with Russia, saying such a move would threaten to cause an uncontrollable escalation. Russia says it is open to a dialogue with US President Donald Trump, who has said he intends to bring a swift end to the war.
The EU is exploring possible energy and military deals with the US to avert potential tariffs from the Trump administration, according to European Commission's Executive Vice President. In a speech in Davos, he warned that the EU will defend its rights and interests if necessary.
The EU is considering energy and military purchases from the United States to address tariff threats made by President Donald Trump.
So we're seeking alternative suppliers, and US is now our largest LNG supplier, supplying more than half of our LNG. And actually Europe is the largest destination of US LNG. So we had a good cooperation over the last couple of years, and from our side we are ready to see how to further that.
President Trump has frequently criticized the trade imbalance between the EU and the US, suggesting tariffs or increased US exports, including liquefied natural gas. European Commission Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis emphasized that Europe will defend its interests.
Well, we are ready to defend our interests and rights if it becomes necessary. You remember from the first Trump administration when they introduced the tariffs against European steel and aluminum, we responded in a proportionate way. So we are ready to defend our interests, but first and foremost we want to engage with the US administration.
Valdis Dombrovskis highlighted Europe's willingness to build on its recent cooperation with the US. The EU is also discussing military spending as part of efforts to enhance its defense capabilities against Russia, with cooperation within NATO remaining significant.
The Bank of Japan has announced a much-anticipated raise in interest rates from 0.25 to 0.5%, its highest level since the 2008 global financial crisis. The decision marks the Bank of Japan's first rate hike since July and comes just days after Donald Trump returned to the White House. The bank said it will continue to raise the key short-term rate if the economy and prices move in line with its expectations. The Japanese yen gained some stability against the dollar following the announcement, having previously floundered between marginal gains and losses. Several thousand gathered in Aschaffenburg in the south of Germany to mourn the victims of a deadly knife attack that left 2 people dead, including a toddler.
Around 3,000 people gathered in the southern German town of Aschaffenburg on Thursday to mourn the victims of a knife attack. A 41-year-old German man and a 2-year-old boy of Moroccan descent were killed, while a 2-year-old Syrian girl was injured in the attack on Wednesday. Mourners observed a moment of silence and placed candles and flowers at a memorial in the park where the attack occurred.
The boy also lived in my neighborhood, and I used to see him from time to time, and he was full of life and full of joy. It's sick. I have no words.
Khalid Melek, chairman of the Islamic Cultural Association in Aschaffenburg, said the large turnout provided some comfort.
This is definitely comforting. That's also something I take away for the family, especially for the mother, because there are so many people here. It's incredible. It shows our cohesion in this country.
The suspect, a 28-year-old man from Afghanistan, was brought before a judge on Thursday. He had a history of violent behaviour and was undergoing psychiatric treatment. Although his asylum process had been closed and he had agreed to voluntarily leave Germany in December, he remained in the country under treatment. The stabbings are part of a string of violent attacks in Germany that have raised concerns over security and migration ahead of parliamentary elections on February 23rd.
Massive wildfires continue to devastate the Los Angeles area, with thousands of people on new evacuation orders. In the meantime, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a $2.5 billion relief package to aid the fire-ravaged region.
A new wildfire, the Hughes Fire, broke out north of Los Angeles on Thursday, prompting mandatory evacuations for over 31,000 people. Firefighters are battling the blaze in difficult conditions, with high winds and low humidity adding to the challenge. While containment efforts have increased to 24%, authorities warn that strong winds could push the fire further into nearby areas. At the same time, the Eaton and Palisades fires continue to burn in the metropolitan area, with both fires now burning for 17 days. These fires have killed 28 people and damaged or destroyed nearly 16,000 structures. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a $2.5 billion relief package aimed at supporting recovery efforts. But billions more in federal aid will be needed, as experts estimate the total damage could exceed $250 billion. While some rain is expected this weekend, it may bring further risks, including mudslides in fire-affected areas, raising concerns about further damage.
Syria's de facto leader Ahmed al-Shara said that his country is prepared to welcome UN forces into the UN-established buffer zone with Israel. Talking to a Turkish media outlet, Shara said that Israel sought to advance into Syria due to the presence of Iranian-backed militias and Hezbollah. But with Syria's liberation, he added that reason no longer exists. Israel says that activities of the groups it deems hostile have led to airstrikes and military presence near the border.
I believe that Syria today has just come out of an exhausting war, and there are many diplomatic means. And we have spoken to a lot of countries on the issue, including Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as well as all the Arab countries and all the Western countries, and there is a consensus against an Israeli advance. We are using legal methods during this time. We have sent a letter to the United Nations where we mentioned we are committed to the 1974 agreement and are ready to receive the United Nations forces to be in the buffer zone between us and Israel, and are ready to protect these forces and deliver them to their official positions.
Saudi Arabia's foreign minister visited Lebanon for talks with the country's new leadership. During the first visit by a Saudi foreign minister in 15 years, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud emphasized the need for reforms to address Lebanon's deepening financial crisis. After meeting Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun, bin Farhan told reporters that Saudi Arabia had great confidence that the country's new leadership would work on necessary reforms. An official at the United Nations says insufficient funds threaten the ability to continue aid flows in Gaza.
A United Nations official says funding shortages may affect the UN's ability to maintain aid flows at target levels in Gaza. Daily aid deliveries have surged tenfold since the ceasefire deal took effect, surpassing the 600 trucks a day target set out for the first 7 weeks of the ceasefire. That's according to the United Nations. However, with hundreds of thousands of people left homeless and reliant on outside aid for survival after 15 months of war, the efforts to maintain aid is threatened by insufficient funds.
Funding is an issue. We need immediate funding to make sure that we continue providing the aid for the 42 days, but also after the 42 days, because we're hopeful that we'll go from phase 1 to phase 2. So definitely we need more funding. We need to buy tents. We need to buy other humanitarian aid. There is a lot that needs to be done.
Immediate priorities for the people of Gaza include restocking hospital supplies, delivering food and repairing water networks. Difficulty in moving food and supplies through damaged streets has posed further challenges.
On challenges, there are a lot of people on the road moving, and the roads are destroyed. But that's something we were expecting. People going there, of course, in numbers, in huge numbers, and increasing every day. And I think over the weekend, when they're able to move to the north, that is really going to become an issue, because you know how the road network there is. It's totally destroyed, of course.
The United Nations is seeking $4.1 billion for the Palestinian territories this year, with nearly 90% set to go to Gaza. Currently, 3.6% has been funded.
Over in Thailand, severe air pollution in Bangkok prompted city officials to close more than 350 schools. Locals are calling on the implementation of more measures to address the recurring issue.
Bangkok is facing severe air pollution, with thick smog blanketing the city on Friday. With an air quality index of 187, the city was ranked as the 5th most polluted in the world. Many residents, particularly those spending time outdoors, have reported health issues like difficulty breathing and throat irritation.
The air is so bad. When there's a lot of dust, it affects me directly. And since I have a daughter, it greatly impacts her health. Instead of her going out to play, the dust prevents her from doing so. The pollution and breathing the air in leads to allergies. It's really not okay for me or the people around me.
In response, the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration closed 352 schools across the city's 31 districts, affecting thousands of students. This marks the largest number of school closures since 2020. As Bangkok struggles with worsening air pollution, residents are calling for stronger measures to tackle the recurring issue.
I'd like the relevant agencies to do more to manage and deal with the dust, because it happens every year. It keeps coming back and it's getting worse each time. They should take more action, not just announce high dust levels and close schools. There needs to be more than that.
The government is also taking action to reduce pollution by offering free public transportation for a week and restricting heavy vehicles in the city. The pollution is caused by a combination of seasonal weather conditions, crop burning smoke and car emissions. PM2.5 levels hit 180 micrograms per cubic meter on Friday, well above the World Health Organization's recommended limit of 15. Officials have urged residents to stay indoors and work from home to minimize exposure to harmful particles.
BP is taking a major step towards expanding its presence in Azerbaijan. The company plans to join the development of the Karabakh oil field by the end of 2025. British energy giant is in talks with SOCAR to finalize its entry into the Karabakh oil field project in the Caspian Sea. A memorandum was previously signed in 2024, and both sides aim to conclude negotiations soon. The field, located 120 kilometers east of Baku, is set to benefit from BP's expertise in accelerating development. A new version of a self-flying cargo drone has been chosen to deliver humanitarian aid to the Central Africa region. ASF, a charity that provides aviation services for humanitarian causes, says the UK-made drones will be used to deliver supplies to hard-to-reach areas.
The Wind Racers Ultra, a self-flying cargo drone with double the power and 50% more payload, has been chosen by Aviation Without Borders to deliver to those in need in Central Africa. The Ultra Mark II can range up to 621 miles, manages to stay high for up to 9 hours, and can land on almost any terrain. The drone operates day or night with minimal ground operator oversight.
Yeah, so the Mark II is the culmination really of the past 5-6 years of endeavour and experience with real-life customers in environments all over the world. So what you see is a platform that broadly looks similar to the previous incarnation, but with double the power, double the payload, 80 plus changes that increase its usability, its dependability, and from an exterior perspective, the big change is obviously the V-tail at the back, which I think looks quite dramatic.
In recent years, the British aircraft has remained functional in Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and the United States, enabling organisations to transport meaningful payloads to hard-to-reach places quickly, safely, and cost-effectively.
Daily job for ISF is going where the others cannot go anymore for the normal airlines, the regular airlines, sorry. And that's why we want to use the drone, because the access of the population and the risk of the head worker is increasing every day. And like you have some example in Mali, in Burkina Faso or in Niger, or 10 years ago we can access with the aircraft. Now at the moment we use a helicopter for that.
Wind Racers team plans to craft Ultramark 2 per day and either sell them for the same price as a family car or sell cargo capacity as a service, just like other logistics companies.
U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered officials to make plans to declassify remaining files on the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. While some of these files have been released over the years, many remain heavily redacted.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive...
US President Trump has signed an executive order to declassify files related to the 1960s assassinations of 3 pivotal American figures, John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. The move follows years of public demand for full disclosure of government documents that have remained under wraps, including the FBI and CIA investigations into the killings. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 has long sparked debate, with official records attributing the killing to a lone gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald. However, many Americans continue to believe in alternative theories involving government agencies or other groups. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of Robert F. Kennedy and nephew of John F. Kennedy, has long questioned the official narrative surrounding the assassinations of both his father and his uncle. He welcomed the decision to declassify the files. Previously, he has publicly suggested that Sirhan Sirhan, who was convicted of killing his father, did not act alone. Meanwhile, the King family also expressed their hopes for the full release of files concerning Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1968 assassination. MLK's children welcomed the order but stressed the need to review the files privately before they are made public. The King family has long questioned the FBI's role in the surveillance and treatment of their father. While the order allows for declassification, the files won't be released immediately. The National Intelligence Director and the US Attorney General are tasked with creating a plan for the release within the next 45 days for the King and RFK files and 15 days for the JFK files.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to AnewZ.